This is my review of Samurai Flamenco. Okay, so in this episode, Konno is given probably one of the few roles he's had as a minor antagonist. Because while he isn't involved directly in the episode, he does orchestrate what happens in it. Because I'll explain. So Samurai Flamenco has continued to solve crime and lower the crime rate. And tonight is no exception. He goes out to stop a drunken ne'er-do-well, or whatever you want to call him, and tries to fight him off and subdue him, until the guy pulls out a knife and Samurai Flamenco is immediately forced on the defensive. Meanwhile, a man named Judd Hazama from Monster Stationery R&D has discovered watched the whole fight, and decides to give Samurai Flamenco a series of quote-unquote weapons. It's explained later what they are, but he realizes that Samurai Flamenco is going to die one of these days if he doesn't have a way to increase his options and mobility. So he branches out to Samurai Flamenco after the fight and tells him that he believes that if Samurai Flamenco doesn't have a way of defending himself, he is eventually going to die, and thus gives him the quote-unquote weapons. Again, I will explain. Meanwhile, Marimai has started to try and make the rest of Triple M into a more lean, mean fighting machine for the Flamenco girls. And we see a bit of a performance for that, and a bit of a rehearsal for their speeches when they show up to fight the bad guys. But then she realizes how late it is and sends them home almost immediately, and it's revealed that she's having Goto over to help her, to quote-unquote help her with some song lyrics about a police officer, which is really just an excuse for her to get him in his uniform so she can flirt with him. And he immediately shuts her down as soon as he realizes that that's what's going on, and points out that he's indeed spoken for. And it's revealed that Mario Maya apparently believes Samurai Flamenco, Masayoshi, and Goto to be a couple. And Goto adamantly denies this, claiming that he has a girlfriend, pointing it out several times in the matter of a couple of seconds, as a matter of fact. And then leaves, and Mario Maya is immediately dejected because she just got shut down for the first time in her life. Meanwhile, Samurai Flamenco Masayoshi has been flipping through his grandfather's old notes on Samurai Flamenco and all the detailed lore that went into the series that never got made. And after giving it a quick read-through, decides to go out on his patrol again, this time with his newfound weapons, only to discover that every single person on the street is now after him and trying to unmask him, and it is now an entire horde of people against Samurai Flamenco. So Masayoshi immediately calls Goto because he realizes something is wrong, and Goto points him to the High Rollers High website, where it's revealed that Konno has indeed multiplied the reward for Samurai Flamenco's identity from 1 million yen to 10 million. And the reason he gives is that he wants to get Samurai Flamenco's identity before he gets into too closely with the police, because he realizes that he has police connections, or at least with Goto, and wants to try and get his secret identity out before the police are able to get his secret identity out. So he boosted the reward money from 1 million to 10 million, and now because the reward is 10 times as high, everybody is now after Samurai Flamenco immediately. And one guy in particular, who becomes a recurring character throughout the episode, he actually fakes being injured in order to lure Samurai Flamenco in. And Samurai Flamenco both kind of sort of falls for it, but he goes in and he kind of knows that the guy was acting, but realizes that he needs to help regardless of if he's acting or not, and will always choose to help regardless. And he tells that to the guy when the guy captures him, and then fights the guy off and runs off. only to run the into a group of ne'er-do-wells, the same guys who captured him several episodes earlier and tried to unmask him, and they're kind of bitter about the fact that he broke up a drug cartel that they were apparently running. At which point he busts out his new weapons, which are revealed to be weaponized stationery. So, it's revealed that Jun gave him a bunch of weaponized stationery for him to use for self-defense, and reveals that they are not only legal because they're technically stationary, but they're also a lot more powerful than your standard stationery. And case in point, the guys immediately start laughing when they think that he's just brought an eraser and a pen, when in actuality he just shot a guy in the face with an eraser, and then they immediately realize that he's armed to the teeth and try to attack him, and he uses his weaponized staplers to pin them together using their clothing, and then runs off. So he runs off and tries to hide and continues to show off his new weapons. Meanwhile, the guys he just pinned to the floor have now since untangled themselves and call in their secret weapon, a big burly guy whose name I can't remember, only to discover that the Flamenco girls have indeed already dealt with him because he was a drunken idiot. And both of these plot points eventually come to a head when Samurai Flamenco uses his newfound glue hands to stick to the walls and try to climb. And the guy from earlier, who I said is a recurring character, tries to climb after him on the sewer pipe, or whatever it's called. I forget what it's called, but he tries to climb up the wall after Samurai Flamenco and falls, and Samurai Flamenco jumps after him and catches him, and using his body armor is able to absorb the impact. And it's revealed that his body armor is actually some high density rubber. It's light, but it's designed to absorb light impacts. Although Samurai Flamenco is unable to move after that, and realizing that Samurai Flamenco is unable to move, the guy posts out a fake message saying that he went to the train station when in actuality he's in an alley behind some buildings. And with the two now being even, the guy leaves. And now that all of the guys have been dealt with, Samurai Flamenco leaves, only to be accosted by the two of the thugs from earlier, who try to attack him and finish him off for good. But Goto shows up because he tracks Masayoshi with his GPS, and easily disarms the two guys and takes them down. And then the Flamenco girls show up, but they show up late because they realize that they haven't in fact been on time the whole time. They were going around patrolling the area trying to help out Samurai Flamenco, but they realized they showed up late and that all the bad guys have been dealt with. And Maria Maya reveals that she may in fact be right about the whole shipping between the two male cast leads, because they wind up in a pretty compromising situation, where Goto is a little bit upset at the fact that Masayoshi doesn't remember that he called for help, and that he's not exactly grateful, and so the two wound up being in a very compromising position where Goto has Masayoshi in a headlock. So it doesn't really sell his case all too well, does it? And the main reason that Samurai Flamenco now has his stationery is so that Jun can get data for the stationery, because he works in R&D. He wants to make sure that the stationery works and that it's effective at what it does. And sure enough, he watched the whole thing live and is ecstatic that his weapons actually work. So yeah, Samurai Flamenco made his dream come true. But after realizing that now they were unable to capture Samurai Flamenco, but realizing that he got a lot of publicity from the event, Konno decides to once and for all end the search for Samurai Flamenco and his secret identity. So Konno not so much has to change their heart, but kind of gets bored with the whole idea of chasing down Samurai Flamenco and getting his secret identity, and decides to end the whole publicity stunt. And then it becomes curious as to who he's going to take out with all the money that he now has. And Ishihara gets a shiver down her spine because she sensed the disturbance in the force. I mean, it's a really clever joke, and it's kind of amazing that she immediately sensed that he was about to ask her out. So it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute in her kind of way, and the show's kind of writing. But yeah, this episode mainly showed Konno in a negative light for a little bit because he was indirectly responsible for everybody attacking Samurai Flamenco and trying to figure out that he and Masayoshi are the same person. But at the same time, this episode also shows that even Konno has his limits, and he's willing to do whatever it takes as long as he gets publicity for the site, and that the Samurai Flamenco thing was just a segue for him to do that. And Masayoshi gets weapons for his Samurai Flamenco persona, which he can now use to fend off bad guys. So that's a good thing. And it also kind of does ship Goto and Masayoshi together because reasons. I mean, it does ship them together, although Goto is very adamant on the fact that he has a girlfriend, so I don't see the two getting together. I think they get together eventually, but I don't. But there's something, but I forget the details. So yeah, it's a very funny episode. It's a very little impactful episode because now Masayoshi has weapons to defend himself, and that's really all the episode does. It introduces that Masayoshi now has weapons, and now he's able to do pretty much anything so long as he has his weapons on hand. But yeah, this episode was simple. It mainly just showcased that Masayoshi now has weapons for his Samurai Flamenco costume, and it also baits Goto and Masayoshi together. So, yeah, if you guys have seen this episode of Samurai Flamenco, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below for updates on what's going on with the channel, because I post them over there, whereas I don't really post things over here, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. And if you want to help support the channel and throw money at me so that you guys can actually help support the show, then be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it really helps me out, so I would definitely appreciate it if you did that. And you guys get access to a bunch of different perks, so you guys can show off that you guys do support the show. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!